The Philadelphia 76ers have a Paul George problem, and it officially has me concerned. Paul George is off to one of the worst starts of his career, and between the injuries and the poor offensive play, I'm worried about Paul George's outlook this season with the 76ers. Can he turn it around? Where exactly has he struggled on the offensive side of the ball? We're going to dive into all of that and more here on today's show. Thank you for making us a part of your day. But before I tell you my thoughts on his situation and where he struggled and if he can turn it around, I want to hear from you down in the comments section right now. Are you confident that Paul George can turn it around and be that third star the Sixers paid him to be? If you believe in his abilities and you think he can turn it around, type C. If you're worried about him and you think he might be cooked, type W for worried. So right now, Paul George is having one of the worst offensive seasons of his career by far. The worst offensive season statistically since the 2014-15 season. That year, he played just 6 games coming off the broken leg. And it's been the efficiency in particular that really has me concerned for his prospects moving forward. Now, you take a look at just some of his raw numbers as what he's done to start his time with the Sixers, and it's not even, the points per game number that has me all that worried. 16 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's done a decent job as a playmaker this year, although inconsistent there. But look at those field goal and three-point numbers, right? 41% from the field, just 33% from three. Paul George is a player that over his career has always been efficient, right? You think about the volume of shots he takes and the type of shots he takes. A lot of tough shots, right? But he's been able to be effective on those, especially catch and shoot threes, above the break threes. And this season, it's been a lot of long twos, not a lot of drives, and he hasn't been able to hit shots at the rate that he has in the past. So take a look here at some of his numbers this season compared to last season when he was in his last year with the Los Angeles Clippers. You can see on the left his numbers with the Clippers last year, on the right his numbers with the Sixers this year. And across the board, his numbers from three are way down. In the left corner, last year, 53% from three. This year, just 15%, 2 of 13. In the right corner, 36% last year. This year, 23%. And above the break, this is where he does the most of his damage because he's such a skilled offensive player, getting to his shots above the break, considered a harder shot, but he's always been very good at that. 41% on above the break threes last season. This year, 36%, which on paper isn't a terrible number, but for a player like him, it is below his standards and below what he's shown to be throughout his career. And going back to the efficiency stuff, right? Because this is where I'm the most concerned about Paul George. This season, Paul George is averaging 1.06 per shot attempt. That is the lowest points per shot attempt of his career. Just to put that into perspective, that is in the 19th percentile of players in the NBA. 100th percentile means you're the best of the best. 19th means you're down near the bottom of the league. And per cleaning the glass, Paul George is only taking 16% of his shots at the rim. That is concerning. That is a career low for him attacking the basket. And on the flip side, 24%, so nearly 1 out of every 4 of his shot attempts are considered long twos. And for those of you who follow basketball, you know a long two is one of the worst shots you can take in basketball. If you're going to take a two, you might as well get to the rim, right? But if you're going to take a long shot from the outside, you might as well step back a little bit and make it a three to get that extra point, right? The long two is one of the most inefficient and ineffective shots in basketball. And Paul George is shooting that almost more than he ever has in his career. And going off of that, his average field goal attempt distance, 18.1 feet. Also the longest of his career. And it's not because he's taking a ton more threes. It's because he's taking a lot of long twos. And this is particularly concerning to me because this tells me one of two things. Either one, the injuries that he had earlier in the year, the bone bruises in his knees, are still bothering him and limiting his ability to get to the rim. And he's playing a little bit safe, scared of contact, scared to drive and land on that knee. Or two, he's cooked. He's washed. And he cannot create the same separation that he's been able to in the past. And either way you put it, it's worrisome because either the injuries are still affecting him and more severe than maybe we initially thought, which is obviously not good for his long-term future, or he can't create the same separation that he once was, and he's not the same player that the 76ers paid, which also is not good for Paul George's future. So either way you slice it, man, it just has not been looking good for PG. And he was asked about his struggles, and here's what he had to say after that game on Monday against the Suns. I just got to keep shooting. I think just trying to find a rhythm here. He talks a lot about trying to find his rhythm, right? Just once I find the rhythm, settle myself in, have an expectation of where I need to play. Once I get that rhythm, we're having these conversations with Nick Nurse about how to get good looks and quality looks in the offense, and I just have to read what's going on out there. I thought tonight they did a great job of loading up, talking about the game against the Suns, and it seemed all my drives and all my catch and shoot situations were highly loaded and playing in crowds. I have to do a better job of letting the game come to me. I know I have a mentality to try and get going and be aggressive, but some of the shots I'm taking probably aren't the best looks within the offense. And that's just a result of me kind of pressing a little bit. So just let the game come to me. And I think that's a fair assessment of what Paul George has been this season, right? Throughout his career, he's always been able to get to his spots and rise up from wherever and get to the basket and take the shots he wants to take. But I think this year, playing in a new system with a new coach, new teammates and players in and out of the lineup, not having a lot of time with Joel Embiid, it's tough to find your rhythm and your place in the offense. But a player like him has always been able to get his regardless. So I think what's happening this year is because of the injuries and the time he missed, and maybe him slowing down a little bit, he's become a little frustrated with his inability to create the same separation and get the same shots that he once was able to. Now he's pressing a little bit more, trying to force more shots to go in, especially when Embiid's not there because the team needs him to score more, but he just has not been able to hit those tough looks and those tough contested shots. And he was also asked if the injuries he suffered early in the year are still affecting him and have anything to do with his struggles. And look, he was quite frank and quite honest and said, yes, it is, but it's no excuse. If I am trying to work through it. If I'm out on the floor, I'm fine enough to play. And I appreciate that mentality, saying the injuries aren't the reason why I'm struggling. I need to be better regardless. And I think he does need to be better regardless. But this also has me worried a little bit because if those injuries are still a concern and they are still lingering, well, when will that stop? Will that affect him all season long? Could this affect him the rest of his career? We know he's getting older and he's been a player with a very, very frequent injury history. So this is just something that kind of comes with the territory of Paul George, and you're hoping he was able to stay healthy, but even though he's out there and playing, he hasn't been able to be as effective. Is that the injuries, like he says, it's playing a little bit of a role, or is it because he just cooked? Regardless, with the contract the Sixers signed him to this offseason, you really, really hope he can turn it around because this thing can get ugly if he doesn't find his rhythm and find his offensive game. You take a look at Paul George's contract, which he signed for the 2027-28 season when he'll be, I believe, 39 years old. He'll be making $56 million in the final year of that deal. Now, I've always said, even back when the Sixers signed Paul George, you didn't pay Paul George a max because you think he's going to be worth it in the last year of the deal. You paid him the max because you thought he'd be worth it in the first couple years of the deal. That was kind of your window, right? This year, next year, you hope that he's still effective enough with Embiid and Maxey to get you one championship. But if he isn't that same player and he isn't effective enough in the first couple of years of this deal, and we're already seeing that decline that we've seen from Paul George on the court, this contract will look even uglier than it already does because people will already bash the Sixers for giving Paul George all this money, and it's really going to hinder their ability to build a true championship contending roster when they're paying Joel Embiid a max. You're paying Tyrese Maxey a max, and you're paying Paul George a max. So he really needs to figure it out if there's any chance of the Sixers having success this year, next year, and not becoming, honestly, one of the more cap problematic teams moving into the future. And just going back to this year, right? The Sixers absolutely need Paul George to be better if they're going to make a deep playoff run. Paul George has really struggled to start his tenure with the 76ers, and the Sixers have a Paul George problem. Now, I know he's dealt with some injuries in the beginning of the season, but his efficiency this year has been alarmingly bad. Some of the worst shooting splits of his entire career. And this is not what the Sixers signed up for when they gave him that max contract in the offseason. And if the Sixers have any chance of making a deep run in the postseason this year, even if they have a fully healthy team, they need Paul George to be better. I'm not saying they need Paul George to be the All-NBA version of Paul George, scoring 25 a night, shooting 40% plus from three every single night, but they need him to be more efficient and more reliable and more consistent as a third option. They paid him, and he was supposed to be the best third option in the NBA, and he has not been that this season. So whatever's going on with Paul George and his shooting struggles, he needs to figure it out as soon as possible if this Sixers team has any chance of going where they want to go and making a deep run to the NBA Finals this season. And much less, the NBA Finals. They might not even win a first-round matchup if they can't get Paul George to find his shot and get back on track. Before we hop on out of here, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Some great 76ers hoodies are available right now. If you put this link down there, chatsports.com/76hoodies. Go to that link. It'll be in the comment section and description of today's show. And you can get all different kinds of 76ers hoodies. I know the Christmas season has passed us, but if you're still looking for a late gift for somebody else or for yourself, of course, it's still very, very cold out there in Philadelphia. You got to stay warm, right? So why not do it in a 76ers hoodie? Despite the team struggles right now, I'm always showing love to my 76ers. Got this old school style Spectrum hoodie, this other old school style Sixers print white hoodie. I think you switch it up a little bit. Little black and blue 76ers hoodie. The design down that sleeve I think is pretty dope. So if you're looking for some merch from the squad and just trying to stay warm this winter season, again, through our friends at Fanatics, go to chatsports.com/76hoodies. Plenty more options than what I've just showed you here today. And make sure that they know Chat Sports sent you. We sent you here on 76ers Now by going to that link. And before we hop on out of here, guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more 76ers videos like this all year long. It's a very, very key season, of course, for the 76ers as they hope to capitalize on this small window they have this year. And it's a very key time in the year as we approach the trade deadline, news, rumors, analysis. If they make a move, we got you covered right here on the show. So be sure to subscribe. Join the family. We're pushing for 21,000 subs here on the channel. Appreciate you hanging out with us on today's show. Again, don't forget to let me know your thoughts on the Paul George situation down in the comment section. Going to be in there replying to everybody. Want to have a conversation with the people. Get to know what everyone's thoughts are. So again, get down in that comment section, hit that subscribe button, and we see you next time here on the show.